Gene Hackman was a star in Hollywood and a master actor. He may also have been the person who hurt the hearts of the women who loved him forever. Faye Maltese was Hackman's first wife. She stuck by him when he was just a nobody, and she was the one who had to go through months of being alone in a cold marriage. Hackman has said in public that he is selfish, but is that really the truth? Did Maltese keep secrets from the public that she was too afraid to tell? Things she never dared to say? There is an unspoken link between all of Hackman's women, from his broken marriage to Maltese to the strange things that happen around Arakawa. Lies, pain, and events that aren't told. And this is the idea I put forward. A story that maybe not even Gene Hackman would want everyone to know. Part 1. The YMCA Waltz, the start of everything. Back in the 1950s, New York was a place of dreams where young people went to find ways to make their lives better. One of them was Gene Hackman, a 25-year-old man with big plans. No one could have known at the time that the tall man with the sharp face would become a Hollywood legend many years later. He went into the YMCA hall on a cold November night for a youth dance event. There was jazz music. Two people moved to the soft waltz. Gene, who was just a weird guy in clothes that didn't fit right, looked around the room. That's when he met Faye Maltese. Faye wasn't the kind of woman that guys would easily forget about. Her black hair was long and shiny, and her eyes were sharp but beautiful. When Gene walked up, he felt a mix of nervousness and joy. Then, for some reason, things got easy. They laughed and talked, and when a new song came on, was brave enough to ask Faye to dance. They danced in the YMCA hall at a time when the world seemed to fade away, leaving them alone. They kept going on dates over the next few days. Faye, who worked as a secretary at Rockefeller Center at the time, was drawn to Gene because he looked like a man and was working towards a big goal. Hackman always said that he was ready to do anything to become a great actress. As Faye heard and thought about it, she began to believe in Gene's dream more than he did. But things were not easy for them. One thing Gene had going for him was a lot of drive and pride that made it hard for him to ask for help. They moved into a small apartment in New York after getting married. There wasn't even hot water in the flat. In the winter, Faye had to boil water on the stove so they could take baths in the morning. It was hard for them to pay the rent every month. To save money, some days they would only eat bread and drink coffee. Gene didn't have a steady job. It took a lot of different jobs for him to make money, from salesman to servant, but they were all short-term. Tests were the only thing Gene never gave up. He practiced lines for hours in front of the mirror, trying every way to show how he felt. But getting into the movie business wasn't easy, and Hackman kept getting turned down. But it wasn't the lack of money or the closed Hollywood doors that was the hardest thing for him. It was the growing gap between Gene and Faye. Hackman had a strong will, but that could make him stubborn at times. He was concerned with showing that he wasn't a loser. Faye was smarter and smarter. She wished for a steady life and a joyful family. But Gene didn't seem to think those things were important. When Gene got home from a long day of terrible interviews one night, Faye was tired and sitting in an old armchair. "Gene, are you sure you're going the right way?" Her voice was soft but full of fear as she asked. He put his coat on the table and frowned. "Do you not trust me?" Faye answered. "It's not that I don't believe in you. I'm just scared. I think you're giving up too much. Time, family, and me. Is it worth it?" Hackman did not speak. He knew in some way that Faye was right. He thought about his dream too much and forgot that he wasn't by himself sometimes. He couldn't stop, though. Not now. Faye didn't leave right away. She was still there, ready to wait for him. She was still the woman who loved Gene with all her heart. She slowly came to understand that she couldn't be Gene Hackman's main focus day after day, month after. Hackman got one last chance when he signed up for a more serious acting class. Things started to go his way after that. Gene got small parts until the Hollywood door finally opened for him when directors started to notice his skills. That meant Hackman had to go on long trips and be away from home for days at a time. Faye tried to keep them together, but then she sometimes woke up in an empty flat and realized she was living Gene's dream instead of her own. They were still together, but it wasn't just a matter of space. For many years, the dance at the YMCA brought them together, but as time went on, life took its course and split them apart. Part 2, Fame's Price and a Family Left Behind. Fame's bright lights are always on, but there are dark places behind them that not everyone is brave enough to face. Gene Hackman's price for fame wasn't just the hard times he went through before it, but also the things he left behind, like his family, wife, children, and the special times he should have spent with them. Hackman finally got what he wanted after years of hard work. Hollywood saw how talented he was. The first few small parts paved the way for bigger ones, and poster ads with Hackman's name started to show up. But fame came with a tough routine as well as glitz. Hackman had more work to do than ever. The days of having trouble with auditions are over, and now there are constant filming schedules and months-long work trips away from home. For some reason, the more successful he became, the farther away he moved from his family. It was clear to the woman who used to believe in Hackman's dream more than he did that things had changed. No dinners and fewer talks. Hackman had to get ready to take care of the kids by herself for months every time she started a new job. Hackman knew that, but he also knew he had to keep going. After years of desperately wanting to be seen as talented, it's hard to say no to jobs when they come your way. He told he was too afraid to miss out on chances after years of being unknown. He took every movie offer, even though it made his family less interested in spending time with him. Even though Faye didn't blame him, she couldn't hide how lonely she was feeling. At night, she would sit quietly in the living room and listen to her son laugh in his room. That's when she realized her family was like a house that didn't have a person living in it. A house, but only half of it. There was no evil in Hackman. He tried to balance work and home life, but he couldn't. A bitterly honest man once said, "Even though I had a family, I took jobs that would keep us apart for 3 or 4 months at a time. Not only were they physically apart, but they were also spiritually apart." Hackman's son was possibly the one who felt the loss the most. He always looked up to his dad as a child. But as he got older, he saw that Hero was never at home. Hero was always far away, on the screen or on a movie set. Hackman said that he felt very bad about this at one point. In an interview with GQ in 2011, he said that he had missed some important chances to be a better father. "I stopped giving my son advice a long time ago. It could have been because he was gone so much making movies when he was young and needed help and support." This apology wasn't just something Hackman said. It left a mark on his soul. He lost years that he could have used to teach his son how to ride a bike, deal with loss, and grow up. Those years can never be recovered. And when he realized it, there was too much space between them to connect. When Hackman got home from shooting for 3 months, he tried to teach his son a lesson about life like any other dad would. The boy, who was used to being alone, looked at him and told him, "You can't be gone for a year and then come back to teach me how to live." Hackman couldn't say a word after hearing that. He had spent his whole life trying to prove himself, so the only thing he wasn't ready for was to lose the most important things. Awful thing was, time would never go back, no matter how badly he felt about what he had done. Faye tried to keep the marriage together, but she couldn't stay with a man who was always gone. It got less frequent to call and write letters. They didn't fight or get very heated about it. They just turned into two strangers. After more than 30 years together, Faye chose to go her own way in 1986. When she signed the papers for the divorce, Hackman didn't say anything or hold back. He knew she was dead a long time ago. It was just that the divorce papers made it official. Hackman later fell in love with Betsy Arakawa, but the wounds from his first marriage were still there. He kept working hard at his job and was still successful, but the years he missed with his family could never be replaced. Fame can give you a lot, but it costs a lot. That's right, Gene Hackman had a great career and won many important awards, but when the cameras stopped rolling, he was left with unanswered questions. Was it all worth it? Part 3.A, Disclosure It's Too Late, The Bad Side of Being Rich. There are times when success is a blessing and times when it is a curse. Gene Hackman had been through hard times and reached the top of fame, but he couldn't hide a bitter truth when he looked back. He had lost touch with what was important in life, his family, because of fame and money. Hackman had a great time in movies, but his ex-wife, Faye Maltese, lived alone and in silence during that time. Maltese was by herself in the house they built together while he was busy with parts, awards, and press conferences that went late into the night. There was no way to know for sure how she felt, but the rumors that their marriage was cold were not false. Hackman wasn't the type to show how he felt easily. In spite of being a tough guy and a great actor, he may not have realized the hurt he had caused in the minds of those who loved him the most. Late in life was when Hackman first started to admit he was wrong. When asked by GQ in 2011 what he regretted most about his life, He was honest and said that he had lost his family. After years of desperately wanting to be seen as talented, it's hard to say no to jobs that come your way. At first glance, that statement looked easy, but it was full of deep pain. He just told the truth. He didn't try to protect himself or find someone to blame. In his quest for fame, he had also let the most important things in his life slip. Hackman didn't show up in public as much as he used to, but every time he spoke, people could feel the sorrow in his voice. He talked about his first year of fame and how it had changed him in another conversation. I worked jobs that kept me away from my family for 3 or 4 months at a time, even though I had a family. That was too much for the poor boy and me to handle. The money and attention were too tempting. That was too much for me to handle. It was almost like confessing when they said that. He knew that he had made all of his choices based on the poor boy from his past. That boy had been poor and wanted to be famous. He thought that if he had money and fame, everything else would be fine on its own. That boy was wrong, though. It was too late for Hackman to figure that out. No one knew for sure what Maltese did during those years. She didn't like being in the news. Plus, she never blamed her ex-husband. But people who knew her said that her eyes were always sad. It's possible that she knew more than people thought. She may have seen things that no one else could ever understand. In the end, Maltese decided to keep everything a secret to show that her life was not a story for Hollywood to tell. And that might have been the biggest secret she ever kept. Chapter 5, A Strange Call, and the Last Hours of Betsy Arakawa. Police found the bodies of famous actor Gene Hackman and his wife, musician Betsy Arakawa, at the Peaceful House in Santa Fe, New Mexico on February 26, 2025. Their deaths shocked Hollywood and left a lot of questions unexplained. In particular, Betsy Arakawa's last hours were full of secrets, leaving the people and the media to guess. Betsy Arakawa went about her daily life before the terrible event. Reports say that on February 11, she talked to a massage therapist for 45 minutes and then went to the farmer's market. Then she stopped at a pharmacy and a pet food store, which were both caught on camera. After she finished these jobs, her car was seen going back home, but after that day, no one saw her again. Since February 11, she had a lot of unread emails in her folder, and police are waiting for information from her cell phone to figure out what's going on. Betsy Arakawa's call on February 12, the day after she was thought to have died, was a shocking part of the probe. Cloudberry Health's Dr. Josiah Child in New Mexico said that Arakawa called his office on February 12 to set up a heart check for Gene Hackman. In the end, though, she canceled the meeting because Hackman was sick. This call made a lot of people wonder what time she really died. How could she have made the call the next day if she had died on February 11? This meant that the cops had to look again at when and how she died. According to the autopsy, Betsy Arakawa died of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare disease that is spread by mice. But her call to the doctor on February 12 made a lot of people wonder if it was really that easy. Were there other things that led to her death that hadn't been found yet? The Santa Fe County Police had to change when they thought Betsy Arakawa died because of the new information. It was proven that her phone was used to call a hospital on February 12th morning. This call was meant to set up a heart check for Gene Hack, but it had to be canceled because of his health. Many ideas were put forward because the time and reason of Betsy Arakawa's death did not match up. For some reason, her health quickly got worse after the call on February 12th, and some think she may have caught the hantavirus. Others think that there may be other things that led to her death that haven't been found yet. At the age of 95, Gene Hackman was found to have died from heart disease and Alzheimer's disease that got worse over time. His heart monitor showed the last signs of life on February 17, which makes it likely that he died on February 18. His death came just a few days after that of his wife. The sad part of the story. Both of their bodies were found at their home in Santa Fe on February 26th. Aside from the fact that there were no signs of foul play, the police said that the bodies showed signs of having been dead for several days. The fact that they both died so quickly made a lot of people sad and made them wonder about their last days. Betsy Arakawa's strange call on February 12th made a lot of people wonder when she died and what caused it. The autopsy results showed that hantavirus was the cause of her death, but different accounts of her last days and actions left people confused. Hackman and his wife's deaths were sad for lovers of movies and TV all over the world. Chapter 6, Echoes of the Past, A Secret History. Fans were saddened by the deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. It also led to a lot of questions about the famous actor's private life and secrets that he didn't want anyone to know. Even though he played a great role on screen, his real life was full of surprises and contradictions, especially when it came to his family and the impact he left behind. Gene Hackman got married to Faye Maltese for the first time in 1956. Together they had 3 kids, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie. His ambitious acting job, on the other hand, kept him away from home a lot, which made it hard for him to connect with his kids. Hackman said in an interview that he lost touch with his son early on when it came to giving him advice. It could have been because he was away so much making movies in different places when he was young and needed help and support. His long absence during important times for the kids made it hard to fill in the gaps in the family connection. Hackman got married to Betsy Arakawa in 1991 after getting divorced from Faye Maltese in 1986. The couple went to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and lived a quiet life there, out of the public eye. Close friends said that Gene relied on Betsy a lot, and that she relied on him too, which showed how close they were. They were both deeply interested in art and literature, and Hackman even started writing books after he retired. But because they kept it secret, people were also interested in what went on in their private lives. Hackman and Arakawa's wills caused a lot of trouble after they died. Sources say Hackman left his entire estate, which was worth about $80 million, to his wife Betsy Arakawa. He didn't name his 3 children from a previous marriage, but since Arakawa died before Hackman, it became harder to figure out how to divide the assets. Lawyer David A. Asquibius said that Arakawa's assets could be given to a charity without a prenuptial agreement because Hackman was thought to have died within 90 days of her death. This made people wonder why Hackman didn't leave his children any money or property, and if there were any problems between them. Christopher, Hackman's oldest son, got a well-known trust and estate lawyer, which means that Hackman's estate could be the subject of legal disputes. Hackman was known as one of Hollywood's best actors, but his personal life was full of secrets and contradictions. People had a complicated view of him because he lived alone with his second wife and was far away from his children. His will was also a source of controversy. These hidden facts about Hackman's life made it even more mysterious, and they also made people more interested in the character. No matter what, Hackman left an indelible mark on the movie world, and he will always be known as one of the best actors ever. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's deaths closed a major chapter in the history of movies, but there are still questions about their personal lives and what they left behind. Will these secrets be told at some point, or will they always be puzzles in the life of a legend? Gene Hackman stopped being famous in Hollywood a long time ago, but movie fans still remember his name. People remember him for his sharp parts, complex characters, and unforgettable movie moments. That being said, Hackman was a real person with flaws, regrets, and secrets that maybe only he really knew. The death of Betsy Arakawa, the woman who lived with him in his last years, brought up even more questions about his life. But before Betsy, Hackman was with Faye Maltese when he was just starting out in his business. When Hackman was having trouble finding work, she lived with him in a cold flat without hot water and dreamed with him of a better future. She was left behind when Hackman's dream came true, though. After more than 30 years of marriage, they split up in silence, leaving hurts that never healed. Maltese decided to stay out of the spotlight, so no one knows everything she went through during those years. Her story is a secret that was never fully told.